challenge. I'm excited, but I'm sad because I've been having so much fun sharing all this information with all of you, and I hope you've learned a lot so far. I'd like to hear what you've learned from last week, what you maybe have tried to do to change certain things around what you use on your body, for if there's chemicals in it, and if you've noticed some things that you use in your kitchen or cleaning supplies that you might want to replace. Um, Anyways, so I'd love to hear about that from last week, what you've learned. This week, we're going to talk about um, holistic nutrition. So it's mostly, I'll start by explaining to you what holistic means, holistic living, and this kind of all falls into place with itself. So, um, so there's a lot of different definitions for holistic living, or I guess nutrition. So holistic living is just looking at there's five aspects: physical, emotional, intellectual, social, and spiritual of yourself. So there's three things: mind, body, and soul, that you want to have healthy, I guess, in your life, to live as a full being and healthy. So with the mind, we're not going to go into too much of this stuff, but the mind is more so the thoughts, your emotions. How is life affect certain things in life affecting you, and then you look at your everything that is going on in your mind will manifest on in the physical. So look at your body, what we think we create. So it's easier to figure out what you need by looking at what you have already and what you need to work on. So that's the mind. The body is the physical part of things. So, what do you nourish your body with? Exercise, sleep patterns, connecting with nature, types of products in and on your body, the health of your body, and that's mostly that's the body. And I'm going to go through that. There are other ways to learn about mind and soul. The soul is spirituality, so you're living on purpose. You're in alignment with your values. There's a deeper connection with yourself, and you understand and connect with the world. So, I really so I guess this is kind of your soul and body, and I guess mindset too. So it really is all three things for today. Nutritional, holistic nutrition. I mean, so and I just wanted to point out that it's better to live in good health than try to fix problems as they occur. So for me, it's really important to just have all three in balance, and you're living healthily through all three. And then as a whole being, you're going to be one, and just help. 4 or 5 years or so, and I've learned a lot. And I'm not saying this is more important than the other two, but this is just what I'm going to share with you um, for today. So I have notes because there's so much I want to cover, and I don't want to forget anything. I'll try to keep it short today. I know last week went to about half an hour, so I'm just so excited to share with you what I know and what I've learned. So. Um, We'll go through holistic nutrition. So it's more so whole foods, and you look at the whole body. It's a whole life approach. So typically, we absorb nutrients from whole foods based on the principle that everything is connected one way or another. So that's kind of why I brought to you the environmental side of things first, waste reduction, waste diversion, and then the chemicals and everything. And it kind of all ties together with today with holistic nutrition. So everything just is all connected, us and the planet. So, and then what we of course eat, and how we live our lives. So um, holistic healing is when people use natural foods and remedies instead of conventional medicine. Now, again, I'm not telling you to quit your medication or anything like that, but this is the route that I'm going with my autoimmune disease. Um, and yeah, and it just focuses on healing the whole body, mind, body, and soul. So there's three things that you would work on to heal your whole self. So we look at the big picture. So yeah, we'll go into the body aspect of things, and most importantly, the food. So I just wanted to point out, it's really interesting because Just thinking back from this last 3 weeks, and then just overall within this group that we're in with Janine and her team. Um, so mind, body, and soul. So to me, what I've come to realize is okay. So we've got Janine, her mentorship program has been amazing, and it's a lot about healing the soul and even the mind, but the soul, trying to live in your purpose, figure out your values, and just live in alignment with that. And then for those of you who may or may not know, there's a nice program called Thinking into Results by Bob Proctor and Sandy Gallagher. That one I find more is for your mind. So healing your mind, using your mind to get what you want in life. And then for me, I see that this part of everything would be body. So all my stuff that I've been sharing with you is the body aspect. So there's three major, I guess, programs that you could look and see and have all those three healings in your life. So I just thought it was really cool. I wanted to point that out because it's really important to me and to share this information with you all, and so you understand what holistic living is or holistic nutrition. So I'm just going to start. Uh, it's kind of a lot of information from. I'm going to refer to this book called The Plant Paradox, and that's by Stephen Gundry. You might different body issues from cancer, liver failure to allergies, autoimmune diseases, all sorts of things. So I think this is really cool. It's a book that caught my attention a couple of weeks ago, and I've been reading it, and it's been amazing. So I highly recommend for you to read this book. I think I mentioned it last week. It's been so great to read and learn. So for me is what I've learned is we want to eat what our ancestors ate millions of years ago because that's what our bodies have evolved to learn to eat, to be able to break down these certain, things that come into our body. Our bodies are used to it because it does take at least a millennia to get used to or to evolve um, to be able to eat and digest new things, new foods. So just keep that in mind. And I always say this, just think back, okay, what did like the cavemen eat, right? They only ate at certain times, they only ate certain things at certain times in the year. They only, they weren't always stressed out. That's a big thing with your body as well. So as we talked about last week, so just keep that in mind. What did our ancestors probably eat? Now that will eliminate a lot of foods that we have today. Anything that's packaged, anything that has all this extra stuff added to it to preserve it, all that kind of stuff would be gone. So I think that's a really cool thing to start thinking about. So, and then this is just a quote that I wanted to say. This is by Stephen. He had this in his book. So every living thing possesses the desire to survive and pass on its genes to future generations. So this means that we all want to survive. We all have predators, and we all want to get through whatever life. We want to pass out our genes to um, our future, our babies. Make babies and then keep going with life. We just want to keep reproducing and just living, right? So yes, that's everything on this planet, including plants. So this is where this is really cool and it all comes together. So plants have been on land for about 450 million years. That's when they first appeared. 450 million years. And their first thing at that time was to just produce seeds for the next generations. That's all they did. And then insects came along 90 million years ago. So when the insects came, the plants had to evolve to protect themselves, or at least their seeds, to protect their seeds from these insects that would go after them to, for food or whatever. So they had to change their their I guess chemical makeup or whatever just to protect themselves or their seeds. So just like us or any other animal, plants do also protect themselves. So there's different ways that they do this, and you might have noticed this just being in nature and or just learning about different plants. So there's physical, and then there's more of a chemical way that plants protect themselves. So there's color, so they can camouflage themselves. There's sticky resins or sap. So like on a pine tree, there's in the needles, it's pretty sticky. If you haven't noticed, you go and pick certain plants or whatever, and there's stickiness. That's to protect themselves from different insects and stuff, and probably animals as well. And then they protect themselves by making some mounds of soil or sand around themselves. Sometimes they have an unpleasant texture. They'll attract grit so that you won't want to eat it because it'll taste bad. And then they have a hard outer coating, so like a coconut or like a banana, they have a peel. There's artichokes, they have the spiky parts on them. So those are different ways that plants are actually using to protect themselves from being eaten or from whatever. So I think this is super cool. The next part is the chemical part of it. So some plants will poison you. They could paralyze you or disorient you. So there's a lot. There's different things you don't really think about. Why are these plants doing this? Well, it's because they want to protect themselves and their seeds so that they are able to survive and to reproduce. So it's really interesting. So the initial, like I said before, the insects came along. Those are their initial predators. So these plants, all plants, not all plants, but the plants started producing lectins, and that would paralyze these insects so that they wouldn't eat them, I guess. So now we're going to go into a really cool thing that I learned, and I couldn't wait to share it with you. So plants will produce there's two types of seeds that they produce. They'll have seeds with coatings and seeds, they call them, like, I guess, naked seeds. So there's two kinds of seeds that they'll produce. So anything with a seed is a fruit. So just keep that in mind. So cucumbers, tomatoes, zucchini, pumpkins, whatever, all that kind of stuff, all squashes, those are fruits. So the coating, the one with the seeds with the coating are considered to be their babies. There's this coating on them, so that they're protected long enough so that they can go and be planted somewhere else and grow somewhere else. The reason why they're coated like that is because the plant wants you to eat them so that they can go and live somewhere else, because they not that the parent doesn't want to be around the baby, but they want to not have to share all the nutrients and the space and stuff. So they want them to just go and spread out somewhere else. So they have this coating on them so that they are protected until they are planted and can grow. Now, I don't know if you've noticed this, most likely, but if you've seen a strawberry go from not ripe to ripe, the strawberry usually turns out to be green. So what this means is it's really just for the plant to announce to us if it's ready or not to eat. As you probably know, it's not ripe, so usually you don't eat it. So at that time, green usually means not yet, don't eat it. And any animal, or I guess human, that eat fruit, they have color vision. So we can see, okay, it's green, we know it's not ready. Now, when it's green, it means that there's higher toxin levels, and that will just tell you that it's not ripe. So if you go to eat it, it'll probably be really gross and it'll probably make you really sick. And that's just the plant's way of saying, don't eat me yet, because I need to finish developing and maturing so that my baby can, once it is done, the baby seeds can go and spread themselves somewhere else. So plants are very smart, and it's really interesting. Now, another side point is that fruits are full of fructose instead of glucose. Now, glucose, when we eat glucose, it tells our body to release this. There's this leptin hormone that is released, and that tells us when we're full. So when we eat glucose, we eventually know when we're full. But when we eat fructose, we don't know when we're full because it's fructose, not glucose. So we don't stop eating. So this makes sense for back in the day with the cavemen. They would find these fruit before winter and they would eat and eat and eat. And this was just to make sure that they had enough weight on for the winter to survive the winter. So, but now the problem is we have access to these fruits all the time. And yes, fruit is good for you. They're full of nutrients, but sometimes we just can't stop eating them. And we have access to them all year round. Now, I'm going to kind of go back to before. So they're green, and then once they turn red, yellow, or orange, that means the plant wants you to eat them. They're ready to go. That's the signal that's saying that it's sweet enough and it's great to eat. So go and eat them. And then because they want their babies to be spread out somewhere else, right? So really cool. Plants are just really interesting. So now I just wanted to point out, okay, so we have fruits that are around year round. And in December, like in North America, there's usually snow. So you don't really see a lot of fruits. So we get our fruits probably from other countries. And if it's from very far countries, they usually will pick the fruit unripe to begin with, just so that they can make it to our country. And then what they'll do is they'll put ethylene oxide in this fruit to make it ripe, to make it look ripe. So it'll turn color from green to red or yellow or orange. So when this happens, the it's really important to know that the lectin content or the toxins in these fruits are actually really high when they're unripe, right? Like I mentioned before. So when they pump this stuff into the fruit and then we eat it, so then we get sick. Um, and the problem with that is that they pick the fruit so early, and the parent plant isn't there to say, okay, let's lower this lectin content because it's ripe, and it's not ready. So you don't want to eat that because you'll get sick. So it's just a really cool thing to think about. Um, to before you go and buy fruit in the winter. You probably can get away with buying frozen fruits, but fresh fruits, just think about where they came from first. Because if it was close, then it's probably okay. But if it's from a country across the ocean, let's say, I would probably stay away from that in the winter. So then we have the naked seeds. So those seeds are usually grasses, vines, and other plants that are in open fields. Now, naked seeds are the ones you want to kind of watch out for more so. They're actually the ones that have different, I guess, chemicals in them. So there's phytates; those are considered to be anti-nutrients. So they prevent absorption of minerals in our body. There's trypsin inhibitors, so they decrease our growth rate. So they don't let digestive enzymes in our bodies do the job that they need to. They actually have all these the phytates, the trypsines, and the lectins. So they're actually not that good for you because they can potentially do all these things to you. So inhibit your growth because they don't like digestive enzymes to their work, prevent absorption of minerals, and they cause disruption to the cellular communication in your body. So whole grains include within the whole grain there's the hull, husk, and bran. So those three things have those three things in them. So really, when they say whole grains are really good for you, they're really not that good for you. Um, so, yes, the naked seeds are usually so they don't. The plant doesn't want you to eat them. They want to be able to just plant and what happens is so they're grasses and stuff. They're in fields, so they'll just plant themselves beside each other. So in the new season, the baby will grow. They just want to stay in that spot. So they don't have this coating around them, and they produce these different, I guess, chemicals, toxins to protect themselves, really, so you don't eat them. So it's really interesting to learn about that as well. So now I'm going to go into lectins really quick because that's what we're going to be talking about today. This is why I want to talk about this. So they're considered to be sticky proteins. So what they do is they bind to carbs or sugar in our body, and the sialic acid that's in our gut, brain, between our nerve endings, joints, in all bodily fluids, and blood vessel linings. So keep that in mind. It's almost everywhere. And these lectins, they're proteins, they like to bind to sugars. And when that happens, it interrupts the messaging system within our bodies, and then it causes a toxic or inflammatory reaction. So there's it causes a lot of damage. It's crazy how scary it could be actually. Now after reading this book, I realized, wow. Now that's really interesting. So when you eat these lectins, um, I'm going to go through. There's different lines of defense that our body has, but when you eat these lectins, you actually we've pain, and you'll probably have acid reflux or heartburn or whatever. So then they've created acid blockers. So just a side note on that. So keep that in mind though, the acid blocker thing and the pain relieving. That actually helps us to continue to eat these foods. So cows and other animals do not, it's not normal for them to eat corn and soybean. That is not what they're supposed to eat. They're supposed to eat grass and forage. So and that's what's natural to them. So when they eat um, corn or soybean, they actually get heartburn just like humans do. And what happens is they'll stop eating. But of course, the farmers want them to keep eating because they want them to fatten up so that they can sell them based on their weight and then, make more money, or also to have more meat off that cow. But the problem is when they eat this sort of stuff, their system isn't functioning properly, and then we eat this cow, let's say, and then we actually get what they eat in our bodies. So just keep that in mind. Um, there's a list of things that I'm not going to go into it again because it's just so much, and I highly suggest you read this book and it'll tell you everything. But corn and soybean are they're full of lectins. So for the cows now, how do they solve that problem? They actually put calcium carbonate, which is actually in our Tums that we eat when we have heartburn. They put that in their food, in their corn and soybean food, so that they just keep eating no matter what. So it's kind of sad, but that's just something they do. So, and then there's also another lectin. So gluten is a lectin. Wheat germ agglutinin is a lectin. So WGA, that's a lectin. That's in wheat. So that's what I'm saying. It's not good. So lectins they're just not good for our bodies, especially when you eat so much of them. And they're in everything that we eat these days. So just quickly go through the lines of defense that we have. So when you eat, if you notice your nose starts running, that actually means that the your body is doing its job to defend itself from these lectins. So there's mucus in your nose and saliva, and there's sugars in that where the lectins will bind to, and then your nose starts running. You also have the stomach acid and the bacteria in your mouth and gut that'll break down and digest these lectins. And the last line of defense is a layer of mucus in your intestines produced by cells. So it makes a barrier, and then it should protect you from lectins. But like I said, we eat so much of them that it's so hard for your body to keep up with all these lectins coming in, and then they interrupt the proper signaling within your body, and then everything is just out of whack. So just keep that in mind. I'm not saying this is something you have to pay attention to, but for me, I really believe that this is the way to go. This is the way. Think back to our ancestors. What did they eat? Okay. So and the other thing is organic produce and pastured, humanely raised animals is what you want to find when you're going to eat. So there's more nutrients from the plants and there's more nutrients from the soil. So a lot of different things that we've learned. So this week, the challenge is going to be for you so we're going to kind of incorporate the holistic nutrition, and just holistic living all together when we eat. So what are your thoughts and emotions towards eating? Just kind of keep an eye on that. Just think, okay, are you eating because you're sad or whatever, right? And what are you eating? And then where and when are you eating? So our body's metabolic rate or whatever is highest between 12:30 and 1:30 p.m. or so, and then it's lower in the evening. So when you eat later in the day, it's actually not really good for your body. And it actually takes 20 minutes for your brain to know when you're full. So you have to eat slowly, take your time, appreciate what you're eating, and chew. I think they say chew like 20 times for one mouthful or something, and just to get it all chewed up properly. And then I guess stress too will decrease your digestion. So make sure you're not stressed. Take deep breaths throughout the day. Um, and then sight, smell, taste, and thought of food. So satisfaction is actually it starts before you even the cephalic phase of digestion is actually the beginning of when you start eating. It actually starts before you even start eating. So you see something and you start to salivate, or it looks so good, you're actually already starting to digest your food. So you must have it must look good, it must smell good, it must taste good, and just even thinking about it must make you feel good in order to be satisfied when you eat. And then you won't be hungry again later. And again, it takes 20 minutes to know when you're full. So take your time when you're eating. So again, this week I want you to look at your thoughts and emotions towards what you're eating, where and when you're eating. When you're eating, try to sit down. Don't do other things all at once. Don't drive and eat. Just sit and appreciate your meal. And then what types of food you're eating. So, like I said, organic veggies, pasteurized, humanely raised meats, or wild caught fish. Those are all really good. So those are, yeah, those, and I guess grass fed, that's pasteurized, but grass fed meats. And local, try to buy fresh and local fruits and vegetables if you can. And then why you're eating? Well, it's because you want good health. So those are the kind of the three, four things that I want you to pay attention to this week and to become aware of. And I hope you all have had a great time learning about all this with me. I might do a live next week just to finalize everything and say thank you. But if you have any questions, again, I will be here, and I hope you have a great day. I can't wait to see what you've all done for your nutrition. If you want, post pictures of your meals. I'd love to see if you've had a whole nutrition, whole food meal in front of you. I'd love to see it and explain where you got your meat or vegetables and whatnot. So have a great afternoon, and we'll see you all, I guess, tomorrow for your first tip or fact of this week's challenge.